Okay, I think I'm live. I hope. I'm going to try something new today as an experiment, and that is to share a little bit live when I work with my game. Before, I've been doing videos once in a while when I have some time with some stuff that I'm working on regarding this game and my previous game, but making videos takes quite some time. Not recording them, but to edit them, to cut away stuff that did not end up as expected, move stuff around, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, waste half a day to almost 1 day sometimes with those videos. So I thought it could be interesting to try this, and maybe this is a little bit more efficient while I still can share some of the stuff I'm working on. So let's see how it goes. And well, I hope I set everything up correctly so the sound is good and the video is good. I have no idea. This is my first stream, so I will see and I will tweak. I most likely will tweak after I've seen it, how I'm going to set this up for my next video if I keep doing it. But well, let's see how it goes. So anyway, I've been working on this game, making it in Unity. My last game I was coding more natively in Apple's SpriteKit framework, but since then I decided to try Unity for this game. And I've been working on it a little bit on and off because I do a few other things, but I've gotten a little speed up lately, so let's see how it goes. So I've been actually moving my game from an older version to Unity into Unity 6 because I was planning to release it using Unity 6. So I'm sort of moving part by part from, I have my old version of the game here, and I'm moving into this contain Unity, early beta version, I guess, that would become Unity 6. And I'm moving into a clean project here, currently using the latest Unity 6 beta or preview. And I'm cleaning up my code, fixing my structure and architecture, remaking things I wasn't happy with, and so on. I mean, it was my first Unity game, or it is my first Unity game, so I've done a few mistakes along the way, that taking care of a few of them here in a way. So what I was going to do next is I'm moving my HUD from the old version to the new version. So here's my HUD in the old version. And I started moving it last night, and I realized I don't have my source file anymore. I mean, I have all my assets here, and I can move my assets over here to the new project and rebuild the HUD a little bit better, but for some reason, and this is rare, I have lost my original file where I created these assets in. And that doesn't happen very often. I usually am quite careful where I store things. I believe, because I did this about a year ago, and I believe it was about the time I switched from using Photoshop to using Affinity Designer, and I had a few other things at that time too. So it was when I extended some things with immigration where I am right now, so I probably was quite stressed. I have no idea. Anyway, so the file is lost, but I have some older versions, because I was thinking now when I move my HUD over to the new version of my game project, I was going to clean up and fix a few things here that has been annoying me. So I needed my source file, and that was when I discovered I didn't have it anymore. But I did have a few old mockups, and I did have a few old versions of the HUD, but not the one I'm using. So I was going to rebuild it actually. So I'm going to work a little bit in Affinity Designer to get some new source assets so I have them. And once I have that set up, I can start doing a little bit design tweaks that I wanted to do. So what I did found was I had this old version here. This is some really early versions I had made of the HUD. And what I think happened was that I was probably working in Photoshop, because I found a newer version in Photoshop here that is quite similar to the one I have right now, but it's not that one. And now I don't use Photoshop anymore, and I don't want to use Photoshop. I need to get used to Affinity Designer and Affinity Photos. I'm kind of forcing myself to do everything in Affinity at this time. I have nothing against. I actually like working in Photoshop. I've been using Photoshop since the 90s. I know it inside and out. So, but I'm not too happy with their licensing model. So it doesn't really work with how I work these days. So I made it into something I want to try to achieve, and that is to learn to do the same things in Affinity. And I start to be quite comfortable with Affinity, but I'm not as fluent as I would be with Photoshop. But I'm getting there. Anyway, so I found this old PSD file. It was quite close, but a lot of things here is pixel art. I see here's a pixel art, like this part here, pixels. So, I mean, it's a mock-up. So, and the exports I have in Unity, I can see these are from Vector, and I do remember I did the Vector version of this in Affinity, because this is not similar to what the game has right now. The game right now has less rectangles here, and they are taller compared to this mock-up. So I have made the new version, but it's gone. So I'm going to remake it. So if you're a little bit interested in Affinity, maybe you can pick something up along the way here while I start redoing this in Affinity here. So I was going to start a clean project, not a clean, but a clean artboard. So I just duplicated my design file here. So I'm going to start in this one and get the HUD set up again. So let's make an artboard. And I'm going to 1080 size, and that was the position. We wanted to set the width and height, right? So let's get it into place down here, and let's try to not remake that mistake. So I'm going to call this one HUD V1, V2. And I don't really have V1 that's used in the game right now. So down here, and here is something even more weird. Shouldn't name stuff like this. But I do like what I did. This design was kind of nice. But what I ended up thinking, I remember when I made lots of different designs where I had them boxed into stuff like this. And I just thought it became too much boxes up here. And I just thought, when I tried it, remove every border, just made it look better. So no boxes are coming back. So, so this is, let's call this one, this is not version 1, so let's call this old one here HUD be 0.5, because I think it was in the game at some time, and this is not the new design work in progress. This is some experiments. I keep them just in case. I always enjoy when I open an old file to see what I did back then. So let's work in this one. So I'm going to take a few screenshots. I'm going to screenshot the old HUD, and I'm going to get some of the old assets that are PNGs right now and remake them in vectors again. So I have something more solid to work with. So let's go back to Unity, old version Unity here, and I just gonna game scene. And I'm gonna start this up here. I'm gonna pause it. And I was too slow because now some enemies were spawning. I don't want to have those. So let's start again and be a little bit faster when we pause it. There we go. And I'm gonna remove stuff we don't need. I don't need my debug screen. I don't need my touch input. So this should be fine. And let's actually get the recorder that you would find where? General recorder. And let's record to an image. Let's put it in downloads. 1080p, everything sounds okay. PNG, let's go with that. Start recording. I just have to pause it right. And I got some frames. There we go. So let's just drag one frame into here. And let's get also let's get one screenshot without the HUD too. Could be nice to use for comparison. So I'm gonna the entire HUD here, and let's just record a few more frames. There we go. That should be it. So let's stop the game. Let's get this one here. Yeah, there we go. One with HUD, one without HUD. So okay, now I see I have a warning here on my stream. I have a zero person audience here, which was to be expected because nobody even know I'm doing this, or I've never done it before. But why did I get so? I guess it's not the end of the world because I'm learning this today. Should I check why I have a warning before I continue here, or should I just let it be? Let's see what the warning says. The warning from YouTube. Warning: the stream ... So let's open Studio. See what I get here. There's something coming up here. Warning: the stream's current bitrate is lower than recommended. Okay. I have no idea. I need a bitrate of 6,800. I can just run the screen. Okay. Does that mean that the sound is bad or that the video is bad? Stream settings. Maybe I just ignore it for this stream. I can look a little bit into it later. Stream status good. Minor issues. I'm gonna let it be. And I'm gonna have to watch the stream myself after it's done and see what it looks like. I'm gonna see how I can increase the bit rate. I mean, I have quite a fast internet connection, so it shouldn't be a problem, really. Probably some setting I have to do somewhere. Okay, now I got it again. Warning. Oh well. So let's get back to this, and just out of curiosity, before I get back to this, I just have to check. So I'm gonna go to my channel on YouTube here and see. Well, it doesn't look too bad. I open it a little bit. Okay, I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna let it sit there and warm a little bit. Keep doing this, and let's make it better next time. So we have taken in those backdrops here that I'm gonna use as a little bit of a reference when I fix this HUD artwork. let's call this game, no HUD, game HUD. Okay, so and here is one thing that annoyed me. There is a small little line going through this symbol that I wanted to fix out of many things. And that could be interesting because I know why I get this line there. I had made here, coming from the world of 3D art, I'm very used to working with symmetry. And I was trying to kind of simulate the symmetry mode here when I did the design for this one, so I only had to make half, and the other half is just a mirror of it. And this line has been perplexing me for some time, why it's there, because I didn't see any reason why it should be here. But you can see it's even here on these two cubes. I did some experimenting when I woke up this morning. And I just figure out why I get this line here, because if I go into the actual points here, so this vertex here, I would say 3D artist, but as a 2D artist, you call them something else. I'm sure, not vertex. Maybe just call it a point, a node. Call it a node. So this node here is on 285, 269, and I'm using at least I should be using force pixel alignment and move by whole pixels to make sure it's pixel perfect, to just avoid any kind of blurriness when I move it into a game world. So when using Affinity Designer and working with games, this is some really important settings to make sure everything is lining up pixel perfect. So anyway, this node here, 285, 289, 269, and if I would go to the other side here, and where do we have the other side? Over here, this one here, right? And this would make that match up perfectly to 85 to 69, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? I should get they perfectly lined up next to each other. But what is happening here is anti-aliasing, which I figured out just a few hours ago. So and then it makes sense. I mean, at first I thought there was something wrong with Affinity, but it's not. It's just it's getting anti-aliased. It doesn't really know I want to put these together. It thinks this is two different objects, right? So two different objects, every object get this anti-aliasing. So if I were to go into this object here and turn off anti-aliasing, which you can do here, force off, that line is gone. It's perfect. But the backside is I have no anti-aliasing on the rest of the shape, right? It'd be hard to see here, but I would see it if I export it, I'm sure, right? So if I do a preview here, pixel preview, we have no anti-aliasing anymore. Well, so I cannot fix it that easily by just forcing this to off. So what I'm going to do here to make this one usable is actually to just join them instead of having. I'm going to keep my original case because I know myself I'm going to want to tweak this again. And oh, you can see it here too, the little anti-aliasing effect happening here along that edge that ends up being here in the middle. So how do we join two? That's my first mission today. Join these two into one. And I have made those into a symbol. I did this some time ago. I think I had an idea here where I want to have every symbol designed for the game as a symbol, so I can drag in and reuse them in different places. So because I have a few others up here when the player collects stuff here. It collects smart bombs. This is health, this is shield, extra life. See, there it is too. I shouldn't say a bad word, but that line, that F line. So, and I reuse these different symbols in the HUD. So I have the missiles, the smart bombs, and so on. So it's good. There you can see that little line too. Probably good to have them as symbols to simply reuse them and have a small little library for this game. Anyway, so let's fix this one first, and then we got to move on to the other elements in the HUD. And one thing, I cannot just take this design right off. I might have been doing some experimentation too, as I was learning Unity quite a lot at that time, because like the radar display here in the asset, I actually saved it like this, and I have a mask too. And the reason for that is that this is sliced asset. That I don't sure if I set that up in the new version here yet, but in the old version, if we go in here, here, there we have this one, and it should be showing. Maybe if I check it directly in the HUD, it should be here maybe. Oh, it's such a mess, this old version here, but right here. So it's slicing it up so I can extend it to any size. So we have the corner, it's the corner remaining the same size, but the square in the middle can be stretched, which so I can expand and shrink it depending on what kind of device the player plays on. Yeah. Do you need attention? Yeah, not yet. Not yet. No time for you, big guy. So yeah, so we're gonna let him get back here. No, yeah, you're too strong. Okay, so if I put my hand back on the mouse, can I keep it there? No. Okay, he liked to push his nose on my arm, and I think I've had it been working too much. It removes it from my... Yeah, Mac, you make a lot of noise now. Okay, so let me get back to this. Can we come on this side so I can be on my mouse? Okay, he gave up. So where were we? Right, so these assets I export not in the final size that they're gonna end up with in the game, but as a asset that I can slice up like this. You slice this up, Mac. Yeah, I know you're there. Calm down. So you slice these up in Unity in the sprite editor. Here you can set how you want a sprite to be sliced. So that's kind of nice. And there actually I moved almost entire user interface in the new version to UI toolkit, except the HUD. But everything else is now UI toolkit in the new version. So I have my menus. Is my managers, I call them. So I have managers here. So I moved all my menus are now, everything now is made in UI toolkit, and I can make this a little bit bigger. And every screen is a UI toolkit template. But some things are not really supported by UI toolkit yet. Otherwise, I would move everything over there just for convenience and future proofing. The touch controller, UI toolkit 2. Everything was the old Canvas system in the old build of the game. But now everything goes in here, which is very nice when you can use it, when you use feature that is supported by it. And actually, when I make the HUD, I really would love the flex system. Would be so helpful. But at the same time, I really like the radar design, because the radar is designed with these edges here, which means I need to do a mask. And I actually have an asset I use for masking it, and this is the radar mask. And UI Toolkit cannot do that yet, unless you use the mesh context that you have available and draw your own meshes and create your own UVs and so on. I guess you could do it, but that's more work than I'm willing to make right now. So I'm going to use the thing that's already working. So so this game is mixing Canvas and UI Toolkit, and maybe next game only UI Toolkit. We'll see. So anyway, so those assets, I want to have my little mock-up, but I also want to have the export ready versions made that comes in here as nice slice ready sprites. So let's go back here and let's continue here. We're gonna see how we can join this. So this was a symbol, and like I said, I'm no expert on Affinity. I'm a long-time Photoshop user, so not as fluent as I would be if I were using Photoshop and Illustrator compared to here. So this is a symbol. So I guess what I want to do is that I want to take the symbol and I want to detach it. I can modify it without modifying everything else, because symbols are like instances, right? So if I were to modify anything here, it would modify in every copy of it, right? And here we have the symmetry mode that I like when I work in 3D. Symmetry on both sides, and that's why I set it up like this, but not good for export, unfortunately, and probably not fixable too, because, you know, unless they have an anti-aliasing option per edge or line, or what they call it here, and I don't think they're gonna do that. So anyway, so let's make a copy of this one. That's Option J on the Mac, I think. That I did, but I copied the layer down here. I want to copy the entire one. Option J, there we go. Command J, sorry. So we take this one down here, and then let's see here. We must have something to free it from being a symbol. Click here. But where would that option be? Could it be detach up here? It was. There we go. It's free. Yay. And so let's copy this one. This one we're not needing. So let's copy these. And let's see if we can flip them. Transform, flip, horizontal. There we go. And let's bring them together. There we go. And now, can we join these pieces? So if I take these two, geometry, merge, could that be it? So it did merge them into one, but why do I still see that edge there? It probably right, created edges there. It's not really merged, just put them together to one shape. So is there any way I could merge them completely now or later? So this is 2 points on top of each other, and I actually want them to, maybe I should have used add and not merge. Let's undo and try add. So here we have 2 again. So select them both, this and this, and just add them together. There we go. Look at that. No edge in the middle. Perfect. So then we just do the same on these 2. Add them. Voila. And let's do it there. And let's just add them. Okay. So here we have a new shape. That's has a perfect middle. So we say we're gonna keep this symbol here, little symbol, but we're gonna make this into a symbol too. So sorry, shape half. And it didn't rename it here, so I guess I have to rename it here. Shape half. And then we take this one here, shape, and create a new symbol that we have the shape. Okay, we're building a library. So then and right, there we go. So that's perfect. So I'm going to copy this one, the entire shape, take it into the new HUD. There we go. And the coloring is what? It doesn't look completely white. It's not completely white here, but that's okay. But here I want it completely white. So it looks completely white. So it is white. Maybe it's my eye tricking me. Let's just take it out here, and yeah, it's white. It's just my eyes. So we have this one here. So let's organize this, and I'm gonna call this same I did in my last iteration, where I just call them left and right side. Because that's sort of how I set it up in Unity later on. Because then I can move the entire block depending on screen size. So I'm gonna make a group here or a layer. I always forget the difference between group and layer in Affinity, but it does have something to do with picking mode. One doesn't pick the stuff inside as easily as the other one, which can be good to control depending on what you're doing, so you don't keep picking small stuff inside your layer or your group. I'm gonna go with layer and see. So I call this for now side. So this maybe should be a group or layer. This is what I mean. You don't wanna, you also want to pick the entire piece and not by mistake pick and drag out something in the middle. I'm gonna have to make sure I choose the right one. Let's add a few more elements and then see what we want to work with here. So we have this little guy here with the gradient inside of it, which is opacity gradient, it looks like. And I have it on this side too. And in my mock-up here, this one was way smaller, but for some reason I made it bigger later on. Most likely because I choose not to do this one here. I had an idea there where, because these missiles can lock on target. So when you have a target lock, I wanted the HUD to display that and where that target goes. But I did a few early experiments and I thought it became a little bit too messy, a little bit too much happening. So what I ended up doing was to just show a symbol there. It highlights when you have a target locked, and it also shows on the radar screen with sort of a little bit of a circular effect around the target to make it quite obvious, but without lines moving around. It was good in my head, but didn't really look that good. So, and because of that, I got maybe too much black or white space between them here. So I probably extended it because of that. So we're going to do the same, at least for now, so I can export assets out and replace the current ones and then tweak them if I have to. So I wonder if they even are maybe the same size. So we're going to do a new one like this, and here we're going to see actually what kind of layers or grouping we want to do. We're going to keep picking this. I'm just going to match this one up here, size it down and size it up. Then we want to shear it, and I think I'm going to do that by simply converting this one to curves. Convert to curves, because then I can just take the bottom edge here and move it. That seems okay. Maybe I can move this in like this. Probably gonna move. Let's see if I could turn this into this. These three buttons up here lets you preview your vectors as pixels, which is very handy when working with game graphics. I don't want this to be inside that symbol, so move this one. So I can, because I don't see the anti-aliasing here now, it's gonna come up when we switch it to pixel mode for export, but I can very easily preview it. So I'm gonna actually turn off this, and then I can preview this as pixels. Okay, so I see that the anti-aliasing happened a little bit on each side of the actual vector line, because I was trying to match it with what we have below. And it seems like the old one was 1 pixel wider. So let's do that. So I'm going to turn off the pixel preview and simply move this out like this, right? And then we can just duplicate this and keep the next one here. And if I actually can do it again, if I am steady on my hand, it's going to remember it. So let's try that, and we can just duplicate and keep doing this. There we go. So there we have one side remade. The question is, now let's see here, the difference between group and layer. If I group this, right, then I pick, and I pick the group, right, so I can move it. And if I were to undo this and create a layer, right? And I picked them one and one and not the entire group. Makes sense when you think about it and hear the naming convention, but right, so I'm going to make this into a group. And we want this group then to have opacity gradient, and I think I'm going to do that with an effect. I mean, I can do a gradient fill. We have that option. But that's only going to fill, they're going to fill each object separately, right? And that's not what we want. If we were to do that, I cannot fill the group. I have to go in and fill, and then there's going to be one gradient on this, one gradient on that, and so on. So instead, I'm going to see if I can just make an effect on it like that, right? And we can rotate it, and we want the gradient to go to opacity. Right, so then we see what's behind it. So we have to hide the behind, right? That is the fill down here. Right. There we have about the same effect. So this works. So I'm going to leave that here for now. Now we have this one back. We have this one back. And let's do the same on the other side. Because we had much more there. I wonder if these actually were matching. We're going to just copy this entire group. Take that group over there. And it seems like I used the same I did. So take away the effect on this one. Let's see what I'm doing. I can take the fill opacity back up. And let's make another layer here. So I want to use layers for the big part, so I can easily pick stuff inside. So call this layer right side. Right. And then we can move this group inside this layer and this group here. And very important to name this properly, because what I'm going to do now when I'm fixing this and making sure I know where it's saved this time is to use the export personal later on, so I can easily just group every single element here that's going to end up here. And to make it easy for me and you, if you do something similar, is give them proper naming already in the group layer here, because then they get that as their file name, exporting by default without having to do anything more. So it's quite a time saver. Don't have to go in and set file names for each export when setting up the export. These are going to actually lock. Now I keep clicking this by mistake. So if they're not locked, they get picked easily. Okay, Mac. Now my dog is getting impatient here. Maybe my first stream and his first stream as my audience, so he's wondering who I'm talking to, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Little bit longer. Then we're gonna deal with you a little bit longer. Okay. I need to get some treats for you when I do this. I think so. I think so. Next time we're gonna have a treat for you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So can you be on this side where I don't have my mouse arm? Okay. Yeah. Okay, come here. Come here on this side. yeah, here it can be, so I can keep working with my mouse. So here, so this side, I think we just realized that it matched, right? So it's the same height, pretty much anyway. I think it's going to be close enough, and it's the same kind of shear. So I just need more. Need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and how long is it between these? So we need, so I'm gonna go in here. So if I 162, 1618, 1642, 1642. See my math. 24 between each. So let's just do one copy, and then you can actually just write here plus 24. And if I do one more, that's 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. There we have 5. We're just going to do the same here. That we're going to put on an effect, gradient overlay. Take down the fill to 0. And there we have the element for the right side. So, and let's put it down here for now. And what did I call them? Probably was exporting these at different times before, and most likely I was doing some in Photoshop and some in Affinity. So probably that's a little bit messy. Right, so these are just called radar right divider and left divider. I guess those names aren't terrible. And they also include a little line going there. So let's add that line. And that line should be quite simple. I probably can just use the pen here. I guess they call it, that's what they call the Illustrator. If we just make a line, 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 like this, right? And then I take, let's go down here, and then I just give it a stroke color. We don't want to have this on gradient, but white. Let's make it a bit bigger. And then we can use the start and end here, and just put the circle on each side. And there we go. And these start and end things are quite convenient because you can also adjust the size. And you don't have to lock them, you can do them independently. But let's see where we're gonna end up with the ones got by default. So if I change the pixel preview, I can see this one is a little bit too wide, right? So maybe I use 2 points for this. Let's stick with that. So I'm basically just going to match up here. Here is the most likely use an angle here. It looks like 30 degrees. And you can see that actually what's the angle is between different elements. But if I remember, so if I choose these two, right. So here we have a minus 60 degree angle. So, well, depending on where you start counting from, if you count from here, 60, from there is 30. So I most likely put it 30. Kind of like to use even numbers. And I could probably, but that's probably close enough. So let's move this one up here and just make it easy on ourselves, just use some other color while doing this. That means this one gonna end up here. This one gonna go out here. There we go. We can move this one. sure, maybe. Actually, I'm gonna, once I have restored every piece, actually gonna do a few redesigns here, so I don't really need to make it 100% match my old design, but I want to have it close enough so I at least can export something that looks the same right now. And here, this I don't really like, that we get this endpoint a little bit inside. We can actually change that. Pretty sure it's probably this one. Maybe I have to select it like this. And let's see. Right. It's not these ones. Then which one is it? It's not these, I'm sure. Here, right. We change it here too. So so when I place, I get it in the center of the end point. Sometimes I prefer the other one, but in this case it just feels better that I place end like this, right? So now I can take this one and I can group them together, and then I can call this one right divider. Or maybe I call it, no, I'm gonna call it right, I think. Sometimes I want to start with divider right and divider left, because then they sort them, get them next to each other in the file list. Or if I start with right, then I get everything that's on the right side together in the file list later on. Then anyway, when I call it like this, and then later on when I'm gonna go out here, and I can go into my layers, and I can take right divider, and I can create a slice. And then I have my right divider slice that's going to be named right divider.png. So naming your groups that you're going to export, what you want them to be called when you export them, is just the time saver later on. So let's go back here. So we have duplicated this one, and let's just restore the color. I'm not going to bother naming the small stuff inside, because the only names I care about is the ones that's going to export later on. So I can just take this one white, and we can take this one up. Oops, the tool, we need this tool. And if I now turn off the HUD, I have these back there. There we go. Let's start with the next piece. Once I've done a few, I think I'm gonna get a little bit more speed here. So here we want to duplicate that line again, so I can just copy this line from here. And I'm gonna put that into the left side here. And if I were to make many elements with the same design, like the same line width, the same endpoints and so on, I would probably make a style here, or so I can edit the style. I think it's a style you use here, and wait for that. If I want to change the size, I can edit the style, and every single element can be tweaked quite fast instead of doing it one by one. Oops, didn't want that. We wanted this one there, and we're gonna move that here. Move this up. Just to make it. Well, that's good enough. And then I have, should I do the radar too? Should I do these first. So some parts are static in the game and some parts are changing. So things that are static are like these dividers. They're never going to update by the game plays. Or these symbols here. Well, this text here changes, while these bars here are going to change. And text like this keeps changing and animating. And I'm going to do that when I export them, and that is to think about what's static and what's dynamic. And that's just to improve performance in the game. And right now when I'm rebuilding the HUD here, I just drop it straight in here because I've been making quite a few changes how I deal with the aspect ratio of the HUD in this new version of the game. But eventually it's going to end up what I did here, that I'm going to have two canvases, one for dynamic elements, one for static elements. And the reason for that is as soon as one element in the canvas changes, like the score, everything on the canvas is redrawn. So it feels like a waste that they have to redraw all these different static elements every time the score updates, for instance. So I keep them on a separate canvas, so I don't have to redraw anything that's not necessary, just for performance reasons. So let's get back into Affinity. I feel like I do a lot of A-sides here, jumping back, but it's when I write blog posts, I start thinking about things along the way. So we were here, and we're gonna do, let's do the radar, or let's do these ones first. And these are quite ugly. I don't know why I didn't do like I had my previous mock-up here. I had a little bit of border around them. I think that looks way nicer. And I also have some little bit of a glowing effect here, which I also kind of like. That's probably why I haven't saved it. I was probably trying something because I was still learning Unity, and I ended up sticking with it a little bit longer than expected. So I could actually try to remake it like this. So I'm not going to remake it like it used to be right away. So, but we're going to keep the same size, but we're going to go for this design we had here. And so I'm going to export this as two different items. I'm going to have one item here for the background. That's going to be this border and this filled area inside. And it's going to be 9 slices, so I can change the width without having to re-export it. And then I'm going to export the bar separately. This one can shrink, grow and shrink. That's also one reason why I didn't want to use UI Toolkit. Grow and shrink you can actually do in UI Toolkit, even if it's not so elegant yet like the old system. But in the old system you had these very convenient. If I go to my dynamic canvas here and I check here, for instance, I have this little progress bar here, while the smart bombs are on cooldown, and then you have this convenient little fill thing here where you can just quickly crop the element in different ways. You have some different ways to do it, and you can do it in UI Toolkit too by using a overflow, but it's very limited still, but could work in this case. But so many things I want to do in this HUD that I cannot do in UI Toolkit, so that's why UI Toolkit is not really usable unless I have to do a lot of custom code, which I will not do for this project anyway. So in this case here, the little cooldown progress visualizer there is one static part. That's the bomb cooldown background, which is a slice too here. So I can change the size of it very easily while the corners stay the same. So I'm gonna need 2 parts, and so I can do the same thing here, but a little bit more neater looking than these ugly ones here. So let's start with rectangle. Let's take away the fill. Stroke of 2 points looks okay, and let's add a little bit of radius. That should be here, right? There we go, it wasn't live. 15% looks about okay, and we still have that endpoint start points. Right. And let's just make 2 copies of this one. ATA. And one gonna be the inside. Oops. There we go. So we take this one. Let's try to do it like this. So we're going to give it a little bit of a fill. And we're going to make the stroke, because then I can keep it in exactly the same size. But we make the stroke wider. This one, make the stroke wider, maybe 4. 5, and we want the stroke to be on the inside. There we go. So we can move this one up here and match it nicely. We take the fill down to black, and we take the stroke. And this fill we're gonna give it the opacity, right? Let's start here and see what that would look like. And then we have the final one here that we're gonna put here. So this is gonna be the actual, this is the shield and the health. And this one we're gonna have maybe no stroke. Oops. Select the correct one, right? So now this is probably behind here, so this is this one. So let's turn off the stroke and let's give it a fill. And this one I probably not sure if I want to keep this rounded on the inside or not. Okay, so let's move this to the top so I can select this one. But keep it like this for now. So let's group these and let's take this group and let's change tools so I can actually move it. Put that there. Can I edit all 3 at once? Can it be that nice? Probably not. So I'm going to take this one, stretch it out to 68, it's at 68, and then we make this one a little bit smaller. And then we can just duplicate this one. And in this case, we're actually only going to make one for the export, and then we can reuse it everywhere. But I also want to see the design here, so for the mockup, make a few copies, but export one. So we have those put back there. Okay, so now I've been doing this for an hour, and I'm not even sure if the stream is working, because I have no idea how I set this up in the best possible way. I'm actually gonna end it for today, and I'm gonna evaluate this stream, see how the quality was, because of these warnings YouTube gave me about the bitrate, and that I will look into for the next time, and I will see the sound quality and the video quality, and let's do this again soon. So, well, this was on Affinity today, and I will keep working on this one. So we'll see what we do next time. Well, that's it. Cheers.